The Sumerian civilization is considered by most scholars to be the oldest one on our planet. Today, let's have a look at its people, story, and inventions. The Sumerian civilization began somewhere around 3500 BC in the Middle East between two main rivers, Euphrates and Tigris, in the southern Mesopotamia. The climate of this region was hot and dry, very much like today. However, the essential role was played by the rivers. They were supplying the region with water, but also they were enriching the soil, which enabled Sumerians to have usually a very good harvest. The Sumerians also developed an irrigation system, which consisted of many channels that were managing the water in a better way, so that more land was suitable for farming and the harvest was even better. What's interesting is that there was neither a lot of wood nor stone in Sumeria, so basically all of the Sumerian buildings were made out of mud bricks. Mud bricks are used even today, but were also very popular in the ancient times, as they are very cheap and easy to make. Basically, they are just essentially bricks made out of soil, water, sometimes straw, and basically mud. And then they are left to dry, and bob's your uncle, they are ready to go. Sometimes the ziggurats, the temples, were made out of baked mud bricks to make it a bit more durable. Sumerians haven't created one unified country, but instead they developed a series of city-states which were continuously at war with each other. There were a couple of different governance systems and they also changed with time, but most city-states at the beginning were governed by priests and later developed a military aristocracy which led to the creation of inheritable monarchies. The economy was mostly based on agriculture and also partially on breeding. The most important political centers were the city-states of Kish, Lagash, Ur and Uruk, and the religious centers were mostly the city-states of Eridu and Nippur. When it comes to Sumerian religion, of course it was polytheism. There were many gods, many different deities, but with time they developed the system of tutelary deities and each city had their own one, which they praised in a city temple called ziggurat. Ziggurats are a style of temple that was very characteristic for Mesopotamia and especially for the Sumerian civilization. It was made out of baked mud bricks, at least on the outside, because inside the walls sometimes regular mud bricks were used because they were just cheaper. And the ziggurat always had a form of a terraced compound of successfully receding stories or levels. The Sumerians believed that gods lived at the top of the ziggurats, so only the highest priests could enter. Together with the development of the Sumerian civilization, of course, the cuneiform writing appeared. It was written down on clay tablets using a small stylus, which usually was just a piece of pointed cane, and you would just imprint the writing in the clay. It was used primarily, especially at the beginning, just for very practical things, to count the harvest, for example, and stuff like this. But we also have one epic poem called the Epic of Gilgamesh, which told the story of king of Uruk, who was called Gilgamesh and who sought immortality, and it's probably the world's oldest poem. However, the Sumerian heritage was much more than just monumental sacral buildings, irrigation systems and the invention of cuneiform writing. Sumerians were also the first to use potter's wheel and also one of the first people to use bronze, which helped and enabled to create better and more durable tools than ever before. What is more, they devised the basics of astronomy, mathematics and geometry, which was later elaborated and improved by following cultures and civilizations. The everlasting wars, conflicts and skirmishes between city-states was the cause for weakness of the region. Akkadians used that fact to their advantage, and around 2300 BC, the king Sargon the Great conquered all of Sumer and created probably the world's first empire, Akkadian Empire. With time, the Akkadians were overpowered by Gutians, who were mountain people. Gutians' culture, however, was on a much lower level, so with time they assimilated with the regional culture. Around 2100 BC, Sumerians got independence for last time for 2 more centuries. This time this culture, this region was called Sumero-Akkad, as both of the cultures kind of merged together in one. However, around 1900 BC, they were overpowered by new thriving kingdoms in the region. Of course, the dominant power was the Kingdom of Babylon, but that's already a topic for another episode.